what we're going to do is kind of take you through some various applications of what we would term visual sociology, how it's used, how it can be used. So what I wanted to do in a brief amount of time is kind of show you something that I used in my class, kind of a demonstration project. Anyway, the idea was I was going to take these photographs of people, show them to the class. Obviously we're using images, and I gave them 4 categories of which they could choose to identify the race of the people, this being after a 16-week course in sociology, to see how much of the learnings have now changed them. So I had 100 students involved, and then this is kind of, will give you a little sense of how it all played out. So again, those images, this is where I put the narration in the final production. But would you think that students might be a little bit ambivalent about the exercise? Those of you that have, kind of understand authority, I've just told the students, look at these pictures and identify the race of these people. Here are the 4 boxes that you can check. And I gave them no other instruction other than that. So there's almost like this feeling of, will they respond to the exercise because of the instruction?
My name is Jenna Redding, and growing up, a lot of people at school would sometimes ask me if I was Mexican.
My name is Daniel Malik. Actually, my middle name is actually Jamshid, which is Persian. I'm actually 100% Persian or Iranian, if you want to call it that.
So that's as far as I got with it, but I think you can kind of see that, thank you. I really attribute to the comfort of the students to talk about their personal experiences as a result of the way in which I used visual media to kind of facilitate the discussion.
So I'm a sociologist, of course, and I've been trained in ethnography, and so a lot of times for my projects I'll interview 50 people or so, and I'll record their conversation on a cassette tape, back then, and transcribe it all, and it just, becomes this text document. And so for this current project, I'm interviewing heavily tattooed women and female tattoo artists. I interviewed about 70 people for this project across the entire United States. I traveled around a lot to interview people. And of course, this is a very visual topic. The women are very visually interesting themselves. They have lots of tattoos. And so this topic is just not one that should be put into some kind of text, a transcript and then into a book. And so what I did was I used video in this project, and I videotaped all the interviews, and I videotaped a lot of field work. I went to tattoo conventions, I went to tattoo shops, and I participated also, of course. It's participant observation, so I found amazing tattoo artists, and I got lots of tattoos myself. But I look at it as a larger sociological issue. My research question is, what is it like to be a heavily tattooed woman in society? Especially looking at social stigma, and that social stigma comes, from strangers on the street, the moral crusaders that are imposing that stigma upon the heavily tattooed person. It comes from strangers on the street, it comes from family and friends, and of course it comes from employers. Tattooing and body modification is not a protected class. And so, people can absolutely be fired from their jobs for having tattoos, and they frequently are. So that was my research question with the heavily tattooed women. And then for female tattoo artists, what's it like for them to work in this male-dominated industry? And so what I did was I made a documentary movie that's an hour long about this project and about this topic. And I filmed for over 3 years. I interviewed 70 people, as I said, and traveled around the entire U.S. So there's a lot of people and a lot of information in the movie. And what I wanted to do was just show the first part of the movie.
What's your guilty pleasure? Is it eating chocolate at 12 o'clock at night? Is it reading airport novels? My guilty pleasure started with this show, The Bachelor. This is a new way of keeping students engaged in social behavior. What could you learn from a reality TV? In this presentation, I'm going to actually focus upon the love shows on the VH1 network. Okay. Stereotypes, are they harmful to us, or are they just a form of entertainment? When I started watching the Bachelor show, I was like, okay, this is interesting because what it does is reproduce the Cinderella mindset. We teach young girls that if you want to be valid or you want to be valuable within society, then you have to be defined by a relationship. And what was interesting is that I didn't see many women that resembled me, many women who look like me. And so I'm like, okay, where are these women? And the women were on the VH1 reality shows. And what I found out is that the stereotypes were really heightened on the VH1 reality shows. What can we use reality television for? It is an area of study in sociology that is worthy of study. You can look at interpersonal disputes, family and work issues, racial and regional identities, class, wealth, sexuality, gender conflicts, disabilities, and body images.
Thank you so much for including me on this presentation. I'm sorry I couldn't be there in person. Established in 2006 as part of the Sundance Film Festival, New Frontier is an experiment in festival presentation, an exhibition of art, film, installations, and performances in a deliberately social environment. New Frontier explores the implications of digital technology and screen culture on cinematic storytelling and is structured around an organizing principle that senior programmer and founding curator Shari Philo calls physical cinema. Physical cinema mobilizes digital technologies to incite embodied, participatory engagements that reframe the linear relationship between the spectator and the screen, generating new dynamics between audiences, technology, and cinema. New Frontier occurs in the snowy ski resort town of Park City, Utah, within the context of the Sundance Film Festival, the most prestigious and value-producing film festival in the United States. To enter New Frontier, you walk past the masses of people hoping to see the next breakout independent film at the Egyptian Theater, and enter into, of all places, the Main Street shopping mall. Descending a spiral staircase, you enter into the shady depths of a basement with low ceilings, sparse and strategic lighting, and purple, red, or even bright orange walls. Approaching experimental audiences through the intellect, she says, only works with people who are already interested in experimental cinema. Everyone else already has an idea that they don't like experimental work, or they're not interested in that kind of cinema, or they simply shut down because they don't understand it. But approaching audiences along the central route gives you a whole other vocabulary with which to appeal to audiences. Next slide, please. Philo describes the role of New Frontier as one of opening up or warming audiences who attend the festival, expecting Sundance to deliver a certain product, which is American independent film. Philo explains that once people venture down to New Frontier, the goal is to mobilize any possible interest they might have in technology or new media as an opening from which to then physically seduce the audience, literally, she says, with soft couches, low lighting, and sexy music.
What I do in the rest of the paper is to basically talk about what exactly the concept of physical cinema is. And for